On this episode of Dead Last, it is the return of the King, Stephen King and adaptations of his work. Now, this is the second volume that we've done of his film adaptations, and we went a different route with this one. We took all of the remaining Stephen King adaptations, put them in a hat, and we drew them out at random. And these are the movies that we came up with, and I added in the two most recent It movies as well in order to have a Pennywise showdown to see which clown reigns supreme. So if you're just joining us, my patrons took these movies, they ranked them from dead last being the worst down to number one being the best, and we've added up all those points to create one definitive ranking. And here with me today to discuss that ranking is my panel, and we have some new faces with us today, but let's go to a familiar one with Clay coming at us from the state of Florida, which is currently imploding at the time being. But welcome aboard, welcome back. How you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me back again, especially for this fantastic list. You know what a big Stephen King fan I am, so I'm pumped.
Next up on the panel, coming at us for the first time on the full panel, one of my patrons, and it's Heather. Welcome aboard, Heather. How are you?
I'm good. I said Midwest before. I'm actually from Madison, Wisconsin.
And you are ready for the spooky season. You've got the Halloween pumpkin flaring in the background.
Isn't it always spooky season?
Yeah, I guess it never stops.
Well, especially now it's spooky season. It's been spooky season at least since last year.
Finally, but absolutely not least, the gentleman that we've been trying to get on the show for quite a while now, the final member of the Halloween Shindig radio crew. It is Graham. Welcome aboard. You may have seen him on Face Off, but he's so much more than that.
That's how I always like to be introduced. So much more than what you've heard.
All right, so for this list, I have received 27 rankings. So that means that the best possible score a movie could have is 27 points. That's if everybody ranked it number one. And the worst possible score, if everyone ranked a movie dead last, is 324 points. And speaking of worst possible scores, let's see what our dead last movie is. Coming in at dead last with 255 points. I'm pretty happy about this. It is Pet Sematary 2019. This is the first. I think this is the first dead last in a couple episodes that I've been like, yes, very on board for. Yeah, it was ranked dead last 7 times, and its best score that it got was 4th place. On this panel, pretty low scores all around. Graham, you gave it the lowest. It was your dead last. Clay and I both gave it very, very low, almost there with 11th place. And Heather, a little bit higher with 9th place. But Graham, it seems as if you had the most ire for this one, putting it at your dead last. I'm going to let you kick it off.
They just missed so many opportunities to be a creepy movie. They missed so many opportunities to have any kind of New England accent whatsoever anywhere. And you've got your key character, which is John Lithgow, who's supposed to be, the most famous quoted person from Pet Sematary. No accent. Yeah, the twist on the little, you got a dead girl. Oh boy, a dead girl. Like there's a brand new feature for a movie to have a little scary dead girl. Awful. The one thing I think they got right was the set for the deadfall with the big pile of bones and stuff or the branches and stuff. But then they get to the top and it looks like Mordor from Lord of the Rings. And it just keeps going. So the whole movie just really got it wrong. So yeah, it's dead last for me. Screw you, Pet Sematary 2019. You ruined it.
I guess I went in I wasn't really crazy about the original Pet Sematary either. I feel like it's sad horror is really, really very hard to do. And I don't think it nailed it then. And it certainly didn't nail it now, although it wasn't as campy, I feel, as the original one. But it was too clean and polished because the original was very kind of grungy looking and just grim. So it had the right atmosphere. And this was like a polished version of atmosphere, which a lot of horror movies do now. I'm not crazy about. Like, I don't know. I didn't see the purpose in switching the death from the brother to the sister. I think that's when the cheese kind of entered, because the little girl did what she could with it, but it was just bad. It was a bad decision. It just, I don't know. So it just kind of ended there because there were just movies that I disliked more. so that's a glowing review for me.
There was zero atmosphere in the entire film, and they just said, let's find the three things that people liked in the original one and just emphasize them over and over and over again. The biggest thing for me is that I should be the target audience for this movie. You're making a movie in which a dad loses his daughter. This should be right up my alley, and you should have me bawling in this movie and feeling this weird emotional connection and having an empathy towards this guy. And I felt nothing. The way they filmed it was just very cold. They didn't establish an emotional connection between the family and the daughter in the beginning, so you didn't feel anything. You didn't feel anything for the characters, and it was just a big old nothing.
The problem is when directors try to bring his books to life page for page, I don't think his books as they are written fit film very well. King has great ideas, and the books are generally very good and scary on the page. They become cheesy and overwrought with just absolute nonsense sometimes if the director is just trying to bring the book to life. So Pet Sematary, the remake, again, I'm not a fan of the original either. And again, I am a huge fan of Stephen King, the books. And John Lithgow is probably one of my favorite actors. Jason Clarke, also an amazing actor. Terrible, terrible, terrible film.
The whole Zelda story of like the girl with the bone problems, and they twist that around, no pun intended. The little girl who has spinal problems finds her way into a dumbwaiter. Which means that, like, oh yeah, I gave her breakfast and I pulled this rope and it got stuck halfway. And then you're supposed to imagine this like twisted little girl, like, oh, let me get my breakfast, and then falls down like half of like 5 feet, and then crushes herself. And then brings the dumbwaiter down and is like, oh man, you're totally dead.
You know, I do want to also point out really quickly here, for anybody that watches Dead Last that also listens to Shindig Radio, it is zero surprise to those of us that are listeners that Graham is wearing a Roadhouse t-shirt.
Oh yeah, right. This is from Mikey Rotella, actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
Moving on to our number 11 movie. Number 11 was one that also got a lot of sour grapes, but I'm actually a little disappointed with where it landed, or so much that some movies are ahead of it. But at number 11 with 237 points is The Langoliers, which was ranked dead last 7 times, the same amount as Pet Sematary 2019, but its best score that it got was second place. It did get 1 second place nod. On this panel, Clay disliked it the most by giving it dead last. Graham and Heather both also truly did not care for it and placed it at 11th place, and I gave it the highest ranking at 8th place, and I will now defend that. I completely understand why people don't like it, and I don't necessarily like it either. But it is a pretty solid cast. You've got the guy that played Anton Arcane in there, and I like that guy a lot. You got Balky, who's doing this weird Paul Rubens impression, which I thought was kind of fun. As an editor, when I look at this movie, I feel as if there is a good movie in here, or at least a better movie in here. And I think that if you were to take this movie, chop it down, edit out a lot of the filler in between, and make it a lean hour and 20 minutes or so, and you have, I'm gonna not go the distance and say good movie, but I will say better movie. And I think the fact that I can see a better movie in there is why I put it a little higher than some of the other ones that I thought were worse.
the disdain I had for the blind girl is incredible. I mean, it's just, I wanted her to die the whole movie. I really did. I was like, this kid obviously has what Stephen King's universe calls the shining.
Yeah.
The shine about her, and she's blind. So wow, that's really an interesting take on the shine. She's blind too, and annoying. We had terrible CGI in a year, a couple of years after Jurassic Park, and we're left with these terrible Pac-Men with sharp metallic Terminator T-1000 teeth. Also, we had space vaginas. Can I say that? Can I say space vagina? Somebody produced a 3-hour-long film of nothingness. So dead last for sure. Space vaginas.
Langoliers traps you in this wannabe Twilight Zone, which, you know, ironically has Dean Stockwell, who was in the Twilight Zone. You've got Balky. He keeps ripping that paper like that's a cool thing you should do throughout a whole movie. It just feels like he's holding the script of the movie. He's just like, and another line and another minute of editing done. And yes, the girl, the awful shining girl in a terrible pink outfit, which obviously she's blind because she would never pick those clothes. And then, you know, the cool Boston chick who's talking about Boston, and then her accent vanishes throughout the movie. And as her like character develops, her accent goes away. So I don't know if the Langoliers ate that. I don't know why I've got a thing for people hanging on to accents. So yeah, the Langoliers to me has all the fun of waiting at an airport.
It was 3 parts, nothing. Like, oh, look at the horizon, it's coming, and nothing's happening out there, like for 12 shots. And then finally, when it comes, it's like a really bad video game cutscene from like 1996. It very much felt like a Love Boat cast, where everybody's just out of their prime, but everyone still knows who they are. So they kind of bring them on. There should have been Charo. Why there was no Charo, I don't know. That would have made it a billion times better. Not my favorite movie, but it was fun. I had fun watching it regardless, but it was not great.
I desperately want to see Charo play the Bronson Pinchot character now. Just like,
that would have been awesome.
Coochie.
Cutting the little girl.
All right, moving on now to something that is very sad for me here. And I have a feeling, looking at the rankings, that we're all going to be very disappointed when I tell you that number 10, with 219 points, is The Mangler. Yes, it was ranked dead last 5 times. The best score that it got was first place. And on the panel, we all gave it significantly higher than 10th place. Clay, you were the lowest of us with 7th place. I had it in 5th place. Heather, you had it in 2nd place. And Graham, you had it in 1st place.
Show me a better killer laundry press movie, and I'll agree with you. The fact that, okay, and yet Buffalo Bill's the hero, and Robert Englund is doing whatever the hell he's doing in this movie. He's on like an 11, being kind of sexy in some parts where you're like, this is misplaced sexiness. I can't stand it. Again, I keep forgetting the actor's name, but Buffalo Bill is weird to watch him act on a normal day, you know, because he has this weird way of talking, you know, where it sounds like he's chewing on something. And then you give him a bottle of pills to suck on throughout the whole movie. So he's doing all these. If you freeze frame any moment with him, he's like doing these weird, like sour faces. A movie I've never seen before, didn't know where it was going, did not know where it was going to land. And yeah, that's why it's my number 1.
I had not seen this either. I did not expect to like it, just because horror comedies I have issues with. I don't love most.
Wait, it's a comedy?
Well, that's kind of what I thought it was going into it. That it was like it
was terrifying.
Oh man, no! I really loved it. It was fun. Robert Englund doing this young Frankenstein with his legs and being just weird and creepy, and there was just something about it super unique that I just super loved. I mean, I just kind of loved the whole thing from start to finish.
I don't know where King got his idea for this. I do know that there's a lot of machinery that he always likes to demonize, and he gets it from like real life experiences that he's had. I just want to know, like, what was he doing on a laundry machine? Like, did him and his wife have like an unfortunate, intimate moment on a laundry machine? It freaked me out. Robert Englund is hilarious. Hell's bells, Dell.
Yes, yeah.
I think the idea is just super, super, super unique. So it's 7th place, but that's because I just didn't have anywhere else to put it. If we had a longer list, it would definitely be up high.
Hell's bells, the Dell! This movie is significantly better than you would imagine a movie about a killer laundry press being. I did have a pretty hard time getting past a couple of things, though. One of which was the weird underage love story that is happening with Ted Levine's character in love with the girl who is supposed to be like 16 years old, and he's like bringing her flowers, and I do want to know what came first, Robert Englund in this movie or Mr. Six from the Six Flags commercial. I don't know. I enjoy this. It's weird because it's not a movie I love, but I think it's a pretty damn. It's a damn good flick, and it deserves better than 10th place. Hell's bells, the Dell! Going on to 9th place now, with 215 points, is a movie that I'm looking forward to talking about. Is Secret Window, which was ranked dead last 2 times so far. Every single movie has been ranked dead last. And its best score that got was 2nd place. On this panel, I gave it dead last. Heather, you gave it a little higher in 10th place, not much higher. And Clay and Graham, you guys both gave it 9th place. I would like to point out that I gave this dead last because I absolutely hated every second of this movie. This entire movie is 100% contingent upon the twist. The twist is the entire point of the movie, and unfortunately the twist is obvious within the first 10 minutes. When they reveal it at the ending, like, surprise, this is the twist, you're just left going, yeah, we know that there's no meat to this movie other than that, and once you know that, it's pointless. And then the ending is just a complete who cares. Johnny Depp eating corn, so what?
It could easily have been in last place. It really just because it was technically better. Kill your dog? Nah. Yeah, I was done at that point. It's like, yeah. Don't establish the dog as this lovable character and then like have him brutally dead like 5 minutes later. Just don't do that. It was kind of interesting to see Johnny Depp playing this drunk guy and see how sad he has where he is now. So that was kind of like a very almost like bittersweet to watch. It's like he's declined to where he is kind of that character now.
It was like the opposite of method acting. Like he was like this movie was him prepping for the role he was going to take in real life.
Yeah.
At least the acting is good for the most part. The dog thing, I mean, they just Janet lead that poor dog in the first 20 minutes. It's very, very sad. And it's true. It almost makes you not want to finish it because that's just too much. It's just, and then it makes you even angrier when you realize that it was him who killed his own dog. It makes you very upset, and it's upsetting for no reason. Yeah, this movie was unfortunately even more disappointing after my 3rd time viewing it. And yeah, it's very sad because it could have been better. It could have been.
It's a ham-handed way to handle a twist of a movie if right off the bat it's just the antagonist shows up and he's like, you stole my story, let's get on with the movie. You're not establishing anything. I say kill me some more dogs and you've got my attention the whole movie. Like if that guy had like 20 dogs and each time he walked out onto his porch another dog was stapled to something or like cut in half or like hanging from a tree each time, or maybe 2 dogs, then you're like, oh man, who's killing this guy's dogs? We got to get to the end of this movie. But you give me a lovable dog right off the bat and then you kill him And it's like, all right, what else is he going to do? Is he going to get your girlfriend or your ex-girlfriend? And so, yeah, throw this movie out the secret window and kill me some more dogs. That's my review.
Well, then next up, going down to number 8, is another one that is going to disappoint several of us. But at number 8, with 204 points, is Graveyard Shift, which was actually ranked dead last one time. There was a dead last ranking in there for it. And its best score that it got was first place, a second movie on this list to get both worst and best. On the panel, Clay had this the lowest in 10th place. I was higher with 6th place, Heather a little higher still with 4th place, and Graham had it in 3rd. I think that honestly I would have ranked this up higher if it wasn't for the middle, like the middle 40 minutes or so. I feel like it has a really great setup and a fantastic finale. And I think if the middle had matched the intensity that it set itself up with and finished with, I would have liked it better. But I do enjoy it. It's got a great monster. And a fun fact, the rat noises in the movie were all done by Frank Welker.
I can't say enough about Brad Dourif. I mean, he is really one of the most underrated actors of our time. The real reason why I didn't really care for it at first is like, I'm so done with rats. The monster was awesome. I will say that the monster was really fun, but the movie dipped so much for me and I lost interest right up until the end, and then it caught me again, but not enough for me to put it any higher.
First of all, yeah, that accent is incredible. It's like he's doing a Fred Gwynn from Pet Sematary impression and kind of getting it wrong, but he's like doubling down on it throughout the movie. Where it's just the whole movie feels gross and dirty, like the basement or like the weird, which also has a strange cotton press. So I'm not sure if I have a thing for movies that have killer cotton presses in them, but that's 2 of them that have been at the top of this list. Weird. I wonder if I'm in that cult from The Mangler. The monster's amazing. I think it's just such a scary looking, gross bat creature covered in mud, and it's albino, and it's not only biting people, but it's wrapping them up in its wings and suffocating them, which is crazy. So yeah, for me, it was almost number 1, but the Mangler pushed it down just because it's such a good killer laundry press movie.
Yeah.
I don't find rats scary, so that level of the horror didn't really work with me. I guess I like the creepy crawly things. I don't know, but and Brad Dourif doing that archetype of the broken vet is he's just perfect doing that. Like, you know, that for that time, that was definitely a role that was people were more familiar with just because historically, you know, Nam was still so close, and he really just kind of like nailed that. And he's if he were not in this, I think it would have been much lower. Like I couldn't really picture. I have a hard time picturing somebody else doing that role, and a lot of Brad Dourif roles, but that one, he's just fantastic.
Moving on now to number 7. This one is probably a little contentious here. Although, yeah, the rankings were all over the place, because at 190 points is Night Flyer, which was actually ranked dead last twice. It did get 2 dead lasts, and its best score that it got was 2nd place. Heather, you really disliked this one. This was your dead last. And the rest of us were all kind of in the middle. Graham, you gave it 8th place. I gave it 7th place. And Clay, you gave it 6th place. So we were all kind of similar. Although, Heather, you gave it much lower. What didn't you like about Night Flyer?
I hated the main guy. I was like, that vampire can get him at any time. The vampire can get anybody at any time. I was Team Vampire. They were all like your archetypical characters. There wasn't any kind of like arc or growth with anyone. I mean, there was probably supposed to be, but it was a shame too, because the atmosphere, I thought they set up really well. I thought it had really good sort of like atmosphere and whatnot, but it was just, I felt the script was lacking. I felt everyone was way too stereotypical. I just couldn't connect with anyone in it. I didn't like anyone in it. So
I actually really enjoyed the story, the terrible people in the movie. The main girl looked like the live version of Meg Griffin from Family Guy. Terrible acting from her, but the story overall was really very interesting. Like a vampire bat who needs a plane to travel around. What is that about? Cool looking plane. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it.
It would have been a little bit higher if it weren't for all the phone calls. There were just so many phone calls. We've got a vampire that dresses like Dracula, that names himself after the actor who played Renfield and then the character of Renfield, and then flies around in a Dracula colored plane with dirt in it. And it's just like, wait a minute, what? Like, did a kid write that? Like, whereas a kid's like, oh, who's the bad guy? Well, he's like a Dracula, but he's got a plane that looks like Dracula. But how's he flying it? He's got dirt in his plane, so he sleeps in the dirt when he's not flying. But the creature design, I think, is awesome. He's a great reveal. But yeah, it's just like a whatever movie. I'll forget having seen it until somebody shows me that Dracula cape vampire again. I'll go, oh yeah, I have seen that movie.
There's really nothing about this that I love, but there's nothing about it that I hate either. It's just kind of fine. I do think that it had a nice atmosphere going for it. It did feel very Stephen King-ish, if that's a thing. But it just felt like Stephen King. But yeah, man, that pacing is just so off kilter. It needed quicker editing. It needed better direction. But overall, it's just kind of there. It's fine. All right, we're now moving into the top half of the list. And this one's kind of interesting because at number 6 with 167 points is 1922, which was ranked dead last one time and was actually ranked number 1 twice. It actually did get 2 number 1 nods. On the panel, Graham had it the lowest, but not too low, at 7th place. Clay and I both had it in 3rd place, fairly high, and Heather, you had it the highest. It was your number 1.
It's the kind of like sad horror movie that I like, where it's just worse and worse and worse and worse, and you're just watching not only them go through their, the father and son living with their mistake, the effect that mistake has on everybody around them. It's like a plague almost. And you don't even really know. I do kind of wish at the end that they left it more vague of if he was hallucinating all of this or if it was ghosts. And maybe they kind of did, but I feel like maybe there's a wee bit of cop out at the end, but I don't know. It was a really good, like, ghost story of the ghosts that you've created, not like these ghosts of like, oh, and I moved into this house and like, jump scares, boo. So it's, yeah, definitely that's kind of slow burn and just destruction. I thought was great.
It's just not the style of movie I like. It was without any kind of killer press of any type. I like Thomas Jane. He was doing the character I haven't seen before. The way he's holding his face throughout the whole thing really like makes him off-putting. And like, it's a well done movie, but yeah, not my style whatsoever. And so I had to keep restarting this movie because I kept falling asleep in it. And I was like, well, if that's what's happening with this movie and me, then that's where I'm going to place it. Just because it couldn't keep me engaged because of the way that it was, or perhaps it was the mood I was in when I was watching it over and over. But it was definitely because of the lack of any kind of monster machinery.
The thing that I loved the most about this movie is the thing that is lacking in a lot of horror movies, which is the atmosphere. And I think a lot of modern horror movies, especially the ghost story ones, miss the atmosphere, and this just had it everywhere. This movie was like 900% atmosphere, and yeah, that Tom Jane performance is really what is part of it. He just adds to it. I might have even had this a little higher, except for the fact that this movie suffers from one of my least favorite movie things, which I've criticized on this show before, which is characters narrating over top of scenes which need no narration. But it didn't distract too much, so I was okay with it.
I love the overall feeling of dread. And like you said, the atmosphere is on point from start to finish. You just feel like you're there. Thomas Jane, incredible. This is his third outing in a Stephen King production after Dreamcatcher and The Mist. The thing scared me the most was when he fell down in the basement and the wife came down and started whispering everything that was going on in his son's life. I found that to be absolutely terrifying. Not, again, it wasn't a pop-out scene. It wasn't like, boo, got you. It was a moment of his personal demons were attacking him. Because if you think about it, if you try to put yourself in those shoes, that's really terrifying. Overall, yeah, I really did into this movie out of a lot of the others.
All right, so then going on now into the top 5. Number 5 is a movie that I think all of us wish was ranked a little bit lower here, but at 160 points is It, Chapter 2. It was ranked dead last one time. It did get a dead last ranking, and I want to point out that so far every single movie on this list has been ranked dead last at least once. The best score that it received was second place. On the panel, Graham and I both gave it some pretty low nods with 10th place, and Heather and Clay also gave it fairly low with 8th place. So I think all of us kind of didn't care that much for this one. Graham, you've got it pretty low. How do you feel about It Chapter 2?
The vibe of the movie was just so misplaced. We dig a little more into Pennywise, but he's like caricaturized, almost like a Freddy Krueger, which he's already wacky. I don't know, all of the stuff that they were trying to do, plus bringing in the Paul Bunyan monster from the book, which is actually something from the book. Why'd you pick that one? I don't know why you picked that one. It's like you could have picked like all sorts of other weird stuff to throw into the book or from the book, and you didn't. Some of the stuff, it's good that they didn't, because I think you would have lost all of your audience if we got into the whole sewer gangbang thing that happened in the original book. And that would have been super shocking. You would have made the whole world talk about your movie if you had a little kid gangbang in it. But that's okay. We don't do that nowadays. It's fine. They shouldn't have done it in the book.
Time out, because I just want to clarify that you just said we don't do that nowadays. I just want to clarify that I don't think we've ever done it at all.
Right?
Never done a sewer child.
Yeah, I don't think anybody here is involved in a child gangbang sewer. So I don't know where this "we" that you're coming up with is coming from, Mister. But you better take it back.
I'm saying we as in Stephen King himself, and the people who've read the book. And they also try the giant spider element, but instead of making it a giant spider, you make it a giant spider with a clown head. He looks like the end boss for any kind of PS4 video game where it's like, and now you fight the giant clown spider who can't reach you if you go down this corridor.
One of the biggest problems that both adaptations of It had was the formatting, with having all the kids' stuff first and all of the adult stuff later. They felt the need to keep going back to the kids over and over again, but the problem is every single scene with the kids adds nothing new to the storyline. It doesn't add anything at all. It felt as if they were trying to make a movie out of deleted scenes from the first one, is how it felt. I feel like they dropped a lot of the King elements in it and just made it absurd. The absurdity of it. A leper vomiting in somebody's face while Angel in the Morning comes on is so far from the spirit of Stephen King that I could possibly feel like. And man, I just hated it.
I had such high hopes because, again, yeah, the first one was pretty freaking decent. But then it runs into that whole thing again, like, there are certain aspects of Stephen King in the books that do not transfer well if you're trying to make a good horror film. And I think that Skarsgård, I think he does a good job. I think he does a commendable job as Pennywise. But by the second movie, you're feeling like this is just, we get it. You're definitely trying to make sure that you are not the other Pennywise. But they really screwed the pooch with part 2 of It.
I think my biggest issue, though, was the way that it opened. You have this horrible, based on a real life death of homophobia and gay bashing. And you don't, and then it was just that, you just put it in for shock value. You know, you literally had, like, in, what was it, you had the Matthew Shepard thing. The real life case that this is based on is Charlie Howard, who was a 23-year-old asthmatic gay man who was beaten by teenagers in Bangor and then thrown over a bridge and died in the river. And to just do that for entertainment's sake is just super crass. But the real scary thing is the clown. No, the real scary thing is society, not this clown that you made up. So I just, it's from the jump, from the start, it was just distasteful to me. I just really just was soured from the get-go.
All right, now we're going up to number 4. And number 4, I think, is the first movie in quite a while that I think everybody's going to be happy with where it places. Because with 141 points is Cat's Eye, which actually is the first movie on this list that nobody ranked in dead last. It did get 11th place, though. Was ranked 11th 3 times. On its best score that it got was first place. It did get 2 first place nods. On the panel here, we all had it fairly right around where it landed. Clay, you had it the lowest, but in 5th place, which is still a pretty good score. I had it in 4th place. Heather, you had it in 3rd place. And Graham, you had it in 2nd place.
I love Cat's Eye. I think it was brilliant to have the Shining girl, but her community psychically connected to this cat for some reason, and takes you through 3 stories. And I remember you had said that James Woods, what was your quote on James Woods from the other thing, that you never thought he would ever be charming or likable? Mm-hmm. Well, that trait worked out well for the first story.
Yes.
Because he definitely would put his wife in that position.
Yes.
I get that feeling from James Wood, that, lose a finger, that's fine. I did want to see the 2 people luring the cat out into the street meet some horrible fate. That didn't happen, but that's okay. And so the cat saves your kid's life, and you have to be blackmailed to let the cat in the house. Worst mother ever.
I actually ended up enjoying it more than I thought I would. Drew Barrymore, coming off of the fame of movies like E.T. and Firestarter, so this is her second go with Stephen King. She's so cute and adorable, and you just love seeing her on the screen. I mean, she definitely had magic coming out of everywhere. The second story, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Cut that part out.
Oh no,
leave it in.
That's staying in.
The third one with the little jester, that's the reason why the movie went down lower, was because it brought cheese factor to it. And I thought the movie was doing so well before, and the little jester monster thing, it became too like nursery rhyme-ish for me. So I didn't really care for that final part too much.
This is the first time I've watched this movie in probably like 20 years. So I hadn't seen it, but I have some very, very fond nostalgia. I thought that Drew Barrymore, I don't necessarily think she had the magic coming out of her. I thought she was really, really bad in this movie. Especially when they had her play a mentally handicapped young lady, which was a really bad choice. It's terrible.
Norma Jean.
And the other thing that really stuck out to me is very weird, that I don't remember being as jarring, but I felt as if this one was jarring because you have 3 stories here. You have the first story, which is pretty grounded in reality. You have the second story, which is very grounded in reality. And then the third movie, Killer Troll Monster. And holy cow, that ending theme song. Come on now. Just stole my soul, imprisoned me with your cat's eye.
for me, the nostalgia's thick. I love James Woods being an ex-smoker because it just seems so him to be wound up the entire episode. And then the troll that everybody seems to be bagging on. I love the little troll, but I think the stop motion on that little creature and the giant sets and stuff like that are a cool timestamp to that era of filmmaking. So again, it also feeds off of the nostalgia a little bit. So it's all about the feeling I get from that movie and less about the way the movie was made. So it kind of inches its way to the top, just based off of my nostalgia. Just kind of like you, Josh, but just a little bit more, I guess. But it's that Cat's Eye song, man.
It's such a good tune. It's a good tune. Number 3 here is the movie that I'm the most upset about and where it landed on this list. Because with 130 points, we have 1408, which the lowest rank that it received was 11th place, and the best score that it got was first place, which 3 people ranked it in first. On this panel, I had it ranked the lowest with 9th place. Heather and Graham, you guys both had it in 5th place, and Clay, you had this in 2nd place. And before I let you defend it, I'm going to tear it apart because I hate this movie. I do not understand where all of the love for this movie is suddenly coming from. First of all, I just always have to roll my eyes every single time there's yet another movie about a skeptic going to a haunted place to prove that it's fake, but oh no, it's real. Every single time there's a ghost in it, it's almost like they just went to Disney's Haunted Mansion and we're just like, let's just film and make it look like this. I watched this right after Secret Window, and I'm very confused because I'm not sure if Mary McCormick and Maria Bello are the same person. I don't know. And again, this is the second movie on this list where there's a scene where a daughter dies in her father's arms. And again, I should have been affected by that. That's my worst nightmare. And I, again, felt nothing. Because this movie, again, there's nothing in this movie to feel.
So for me, this is more nostalgic because this is like the end of my high school years when this came out. So I remember seeing with my friends and, being young and stupid and finding things scary that aren't scary. But when I revisited the movie, I didn't hate it. I still enjoyed it, and it gave me a nice, warm, tingly feeling of being around my friends and being scared together and being sad when the little girl dies. It's heartbreaking. I don't care what you think. For your daughter to turn into ash in your arms, that's messed up. It's off. I think that the style of the film is really good. I really enjoy the movie overall. I like the way that it makes me feel from the beginning to the end. I still like the movie. And being honest, you definitely like a lot of movies that no one in the world loves.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
hell yeah. I love heart beeps. I don't know who else in this world loves heart beeps, but I do. Graham, how do you feel? Not about heart beeps, but about 1408.
I'm not going to say it's a good Stephen King movie. I'm going to say it's a good ghost movie with some fun visual effects that happen within the room. Everything that goes on is kind of like expanded on from the original story. So there's like, it could go any direction. One thing I will say is that since they're at a huge hotel, they do have access to an industrial strength laundry and did not use it. Could have easily made him fall down a laundry chute or,
That's a missed opportunity right there.
Yeah, they could have put a dumbwaiter in there that somebody could have broken their spine in. But and then once it tries to do like a mind-bending twist where it's like, and he escapes the room, they go so far with that I'm like, just do the twist. You're not fooling anybody here. Like, oh, I don't know. I'm never gonna pick it up again. I don't think I'll watch it unless somebody accidentally watches it or something like that.
I mean, it felt like any other like mid 2000 like horror movie. Like, I don't know. I don't have strong opinions on it, so I guess fifth place is a pretty vanilla spot for it. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if there were more Sam Jackson, it might have been a little bit higher. But I would kind of just nonplussed by the whole thing. As you said, if somebody was like, "Hey, let's watch this," I'd be like, "All right," but I wouldn't seek it out. So
yeah. Okay, so that takes us to the big showdown, because there's 2 movies left, and all we have left are clowns. All we have left are clowns. So, coming in at number 2 with 102 points is It 1990. This one was pretty close. It was ranked dead last one time. Somebody did give it a dead last. But it did get 7 number 1 scores. Was ranked number 1 7 times. On this panel, Heather had it the lowest, but not that low, was 6th place. Graham, you had it at 4th place, which is not a bad number to be at. Clay and I both had it in 1st place.
Get ready for the love fest that I have for Tim Curry as Pennywise, but also in life. I mean, I don't know why Tim's version is so loved more than Bill's. I mean, they both clearly made their decisions, but I think Tim's version of Pennywise is just far scarier. And it didn't need CGI. The movie itself just, I felt more for the characters in the 1990 version. I felt more for the kids. I felt more for the adults. I thought that they raised stakes even higher in the 1990 version because they couldn't use the gory stuff. They couldn't use the visually scary stuff. So they did such a good job in the storytelling of it that for me, it stands up against the newer version in so many ways. I'm really sad about that second ranking. I thought for sure it would be number 1.
This is probably my most unenthusiastic first place that I've given, because even though I do really enjoy 1990s It, I know that my appreciation for it is just a lot of nostalgia. One of my biggest beefs about the new version of Pennywise is that he doesn't look like a clown. Pennywise should be like he is in this movie. When he's a clown, he should look like a regular clown. You should be able to mistake him as just a guy in a clown suit, because that's what draws the kids in. I don't think any kid would be lured into the new version of Pennywise at all. And the adult stuff is not as interesting, but at least the miniseries version figured that out, so they didn't make the adult version twice as long as the kid version. And I think the other thing that I will mention is the fact that Ben, as a little kid, is the little fat kid, but I go to the park, and there's at least half the kids nowadays that are bigger than him.
I guess I felt like the adult part was kind of weak. That dinner scene at the Chinese restaurant that had really great practical effects at the end, but it's so cringy. There's a lot of just cringe going on with it. That stutter that the John Boy does is just excruciatingly painful to sit through. I know people who stutter and they don't stutter like that. It's so exaggerated. It's just tough to sit through. It's just very, I don't know, miniseries-y. So it had that kind of miniseries feel to it, which there's a certain pacing you get with miniseries. So while I love it, I just didn't feel it was as strong as some of the other movies. So it had to end up somewhere, so it ended up there.
It's because of Tim Curry. That's the reason the movie's good. Shout out to Bart Mixon doing most of those effects himself, the makeup artist who created the Pennywise original look. So most of that stuff on the low budget end is one guy putting a lot of this stuff together. I mean, obviously there's like a whole team, but it's not a big shop. You know, the TV style of the movie in that it can't really go much beyond a certain level without becoming an R-rated film. It kind of like holds the movie back from being good. Plus the casting on it is very TV casting. You got the kid from Sidekicks, look, Pennywise, Tim Curry, strong character. It's going to be alive forever. And that's because of Tim Curry. So kudos to him in creating a character that I think, to me, outlasts the film. You can point to him as a character, and people who haven't even seen the film are still afraid of him just because of how good he is. So Tim Curry is a number one, but the movie to me is easily a number 4 or 5.
So that takes us to our number one movie. It's the only one left, and it's obviously It from 2017, which is number one with 86 points. The lowest rank that it received was 9th place, and the best score that it got was first place, which is 11 times it got first place. On the panel, Heather gave it 7th place, Graham gave it 6th place, Clay gave it 4th place, and I did give it 2nd place. And I will point out that in the history of Dead Last, this is only the second time that none of the panel members ranked the number one movie in first place. I did think that it did a pretty decent job. I think I was pleasantly surprised with it because I was not expecting much from it. It did capture the King feel a little bit better than some other modern movies, which I appreciated. I did not care for the time shift. I think that the 50s element kind of worked a little bit better, so I don't know if I really liked the kids in the 80s as much as I did them being in the 50s, but I thought it was fine. And yeah, I think I ranked this as high as I did because because of my initial pleasant surprise with it, and then when I rewatched it for the list, I didn't dislike it more. I don't think I liked it more. I don't think this is a movie that I like more with each rewatch, but the fact that I like it the same kind of kept it in there for me. But I don't have a great love for this, which is weird because it's a number one movie that I can't really give a ton of kudos to.
I just wasn't feeling the whole Pennywise thing. And it's kind of like how the Annabelle doll is like, who's going to give that doll to their kid? Unless their kid's a weirdo. No kid's going to want Pennywise at their birthday. It just was not working for me. I mean, if you were going to change him that drastically, he could have been something else. He could have been something else, something different to each person instead of just being like this universal clown to everybody, especially since everybody else had their own weird internal fears. So if they were going to change that, they could have maybe done that. But I just, it seemed like an unnecessary remake.
Yeah.
It just didn't need to be done. So, yeah.
Here's the weird thing is that the first, I've watched it twice before this time. And I liked it in the theater and I liked it on a rewatch kind of, and I was like, you know what? This movie's holding up. And then this last time watching it again, I started seeing through the weird gimmick of this director where it's like, let's build up a scare and then have the scare just go at the camera. And we've done that. We do that with Pennywise over and over. We do it with the leper. And it's like, yeah, that's what scares people is when you make a creepy character and then shake it around in front of people. I don't know. It feels like it gets more gimmicky every time it happens. It didn't let everybody down in scaring a whole generation of people. But as far as the people who had grown up with the original It, I feel like it let a lot of people down, including me. But I didn't even have a lot of revere for the first It.
I agree with you guys that no good parent would allow their child anywhere near a clown that looked like that. But at the same time, they're dealing with the fact that we need to make sure that this is nothing like Tim Curry, because one thing's for sure, if we try to touch Tim Curry, we will burn. There will be no hope there. Beverly is one of the most interesting characters because everything is circled around her. All these boys come together and form this bond because she, is there. Even without the weird sex thing, they're all attracted to her. They all love her. They definitely made a decision. We are not going to be anything like Tim Curry's version because we will fail. We know that there is nothing we can do. So we're doing this cash grab and we're going to grab the cash.
One of the things I do not like about the new version is the handling of Beverly at the ending, because in the book and in the original one, It's Beverly goes down to the sewers with boys as an equal member of the Losers Club, and the new movie had to have her get kidnapped by Pennywise for some reason, who I guess now is kidnapping kids. He doesn't normally, but he does for Beverly. And then the boys have to go rescue the damsel in distress. And like, I liked the idea of her just being a member of the club and a group. Like, why did they have to? We got to save the girl. All right, well, there you have it. There's 12 movies of Stephen King adaptations, and I think this was a pretty interesting ranking. Let's take a look at it. This is probably, out of all of the episodes of Dead Last, I think this is the ranking that I agree with the least. So anybody out there in the comments that wants to accuse my personal tastes in this ranking, these are not my personal tastes. There's quite a few things in here that I would move around significantly. But yeah, so there you have it. So there we go. Down in the comments, if you do want to let me know what you thought of these rankings and what you did agree with or don't agree with, I know that you're going to let me know, because you always do. Let me know what you would have preferred to see up in that top spot, or what you think truly deserved the Dead Last movie. But spoiler alert, it is Pet Sematary. It kind of should be. I'm okay with it. Even though I didn't give it my Dead Last, I'm totally fine with it being Dead Last. But yeah, I want to thank my patrons who all sent me in the rankings. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank my patrons that didn't send the rankings. It's totally awesome. Thank you guys for just supporting the channel anyway. And thank you guys for watching this. But also thank you to my panel. Thank you guys very much for taking time out of your Sunday morning to come and do this with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Hell's bells.
Hell's bells. All right, and so thank you guys for watching. And again, we will see you very shortly for another episode. And yeah, keep on tuning in. Thanks, guys.